Welcome to the Talking Heads podcast, the animated podcast about artists and their process. Today, I'm super excited to be talking with Dave Werner, designer on Adobe Character Animator and creator of the Evan Flamethrower Robot Detective animated series, which you can watch right now over on Dave's YouTube channel called OK Samurai. I'll leave a link in the description. Dave, thanks for coming on the show. How you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Just trying to get over this sickness, trying to get back into the flow of things.
Yeah, I know how it goes. Yeah.
I usually talk about an artist's process of when they're working, and you made my job a little harder because you already have a lot of the process of producing this animated series on your YouTube channel, which is really cool. So I'll have to try a little bit harder to find some more out of the box questions, if you will.
Sure. Yeah, whatever you want to ask, go for it.
All right. Can you explain to the uninitiated what Evan Flamethrower is and how it came to be?
Yeah, sure. So Evan Flamethrower was a idea I had to, make kind of a longer form cartoon with using Adobe Character Animator. So I've been working for Adobe on this product Character Animator, which is basically live action or performance capture animation. And basically you create a character in Photoshop or Illustrator and you move your face in a webcam and you use your own voice and it automatically does the lip sync and moves with your own head movements and whatnot to create an animated character. And so it's kind of a more fun, accessible way to do animation. Traditionally you do more stuff with keyframes and more complicated rigging systems, and we're trying to make animation a little easier for people to deal with, and also open up the possibilities that performance capture animation brings to the table. So Evan Flamethrower was kind of a culmination of a lot of that stuff where, basically I put together some robots. I've always loved drawing robots, and got some friends to do some voices, put a story together, and create a little YouTube interactive, cartoon where basically you get to ask these suspects questions and then ultimately decide who you think is responsible for this crime that happens, this hacking for a bank. And it was a really fun project. It took, as with all projects, a lot longer than I originally thought it would be, but
Yep.
That's how it goes. And I'm really happy with how it turned out.
So as you explained earlier, Evan Flamethrower has a lot of robots in it. You seem to really enjoy illustrating robots. I see robots not only in this, but in a lot of your other work. So what's the deal with the robots? What you seem to be a big fan of robots.
Yeah. I just have always liked drawing them, and I think it just comes from a fascination with kind of just the imaginative possibilities that drawing a robot brings, right? Like you can kind of let your imagination run wild and kind of come up with these concepts of whatever you want in a robot. So like, a robot whose arm changes into a sword or a flamethrower, or has all these different buttons and knobs and dials on it. And that's always been something that's just appealed to me, is kind of the creative freedom that drawing one of these characters does. If you create a music themed robot, well, it could have a piano for teeth and a guitar for a hand and, trumpet for a leg, or a video game robot could have, different aspects associated with video games related to it. So I think it's just, I kind of pick a theme or an idea around a robot and just will go at it and just put everything I can possibly think of on that robot. So if you look closely in the Evan Flamethrower thing, for example, like Hackbot, one of the suspects has like a little combination lock on him and other things that are related to codes and hacking and whatnot, and other robots have other things hidden in them. So it's basically just an excuse to kind of go crazy drawing and come up with a bunch of different knobs and levers and references to a certain theme.
You can really see that with the style of your illustration. You have really detailed textures. I think that speaks to what you were just saying about really having fun with it and packing as much creatively in it as you can. You do it with the characters and the backgrounds. They're all really fun to look at and really dig through with your eyes. How did you develop this style, and what are some influences of its creation?
Yeah, that's a great question. I growing up, I think my biggest influence was Calvin and Hobbes, the comic strip, and I would just learn. I would like look at those comics and Bill Watterson and learn how to draw trees from that and learn how to draw rocks, and I would just try to basically just copy what he was doing.
Yeah.
But I just loved that art style, and particularly just the line art, the non-colored ones. I would just like look at the lines and the strokes and how he kind of hand lettered and did all that stuff. So so that was kind of where I started. But then I would always draw. I loved video games growing up, and I would draw video game characters, and I loved Nickelodeon cartoons growing up, and I would draw those. So it's kind of an ever changing process where I would, I can look at characters and say, oh yeah, the way I drew those eyes, that's from Ren and Stimpy, or the way that I drew that tree, that's from Calvin and Hobbes, or the way I did that, that's from a Disney cartoon. It's usually a mashup of a bunch of different things coming together.
So what's the significance of the number 42, which shows up a lot in your work?
Yeah, so ever since graduate school, I've been a part of this group called the Route 42, and it's a group of just creative artists and designers and whatnot. And it was an online community, started as kind of an online forum, with this invite only type of things, and then since then we're more of a Slack community, if anything, nowadays. But it was called the Route 42, and so a lot of us. It's funny. There's people who are designers at a bunch of different companies and illustrators and video makers and typography, all sorts of different mediums, but we all tend to hide 42 in our work in different places.
Oh, that's awesome.
So it's funny. So it's kind of like a not so secret society of designers and whatnot, and creative people. So it's a fun, I'd say it's a place I can always go to if I have need design critique or feedback or advice or that sort of thing.
So how many total videos did you make for this? Because I know there's a bunch of different branching paths, and they're all about 1 to 2 minute video clips. So how many of those did you end up having to make?
Yeah, so all told, it's like, there's this crazy Illustrator chart that I put together of all the branching paths and how you do it. And basically I had to come up with a system, right? I had to think of, okay, how can I make it look like, what's the choice? What's the flow of going from a question to question? And then also, how can I there's a certain thing in video games, for example, where they kind of do the illusion of choice at times, right? Where you think oh, I'm getting a bunch of different choices when in fact, everything's kind of leading down the same path. So what I did was I came up with this system where basically you will not see the same question as a choice more than 2 times in any experience. So I made that kind of as a rule. So if you see one question once, then I might show it as a choice again later on, but I might reword the question a little bit to make it think like it's a little bit different. And so I came up with this system to do that, basically, and it just charted it all out. And then, so each character maybe had 8 or 9 videos associated with them. So 8 or 9 potential questions or things that you could go to them. And yeah, it was basically between 1 or 2 minutes a piece. And then I would basically upload those and make a minor change or minor modification to make it a different video each time. YouTube doesn't allow you to upload the same video a million times, believe it or not. So
whoa, no way.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, imagine that. So so I had to make some minor modifications to each one, but basically what it eventually came to was I uploaded 190 videos of it, and I had to manually link all of those together with YouTube annotations to link and go through these paths. And the reason I could have done it simpler, but as I thought about it, there are a few changes. There's a few things that you do in Evan Flamethrower that specifically depend on who you've talked to before. So you might see a certain question only if you've talked to these characters in a certain order, and I wanted that to show up. So because of that, I have to keep track of who you've talked to first and second and third, and use that to inform what exactly is happening with the storyline. So I could have done it simpler, and there probably was a way to do it simpler, but I just like torturing myself apparently, so I just did 190 videos and it took forever, but it's okay.
Oh man, well, I mean, it paid off. It looks really good, and it was really fun to watch.
Well, thank you.
Can we expect to see Evan Flamethrower in another mystery? Do you have another 190 videos in you?
We'll see. We'll see. Yeah, I mean, reaction to this has been really positive, and there's definitely going through this process. There's definitely ideas that you have, like, wouldn't it be cool if there were more suspects, or wouldn't it be cool if, there was a world map type screen, or wouldn't it be cool if there were, kind of a combat system. I don't know. I've kind of thought of this. I've always been fascinated with video games. I worked on video games as one of my first jobs. So I've always been interested in kind of that interactive storytelling experience. And I think whether it's a sequel specifically to Evan Flamethrower or some other project that kind of builds on these ideas, I think we'll see. I think I'm not done with kind of interactive storytelling. I think we'll see. It's always been a subject I've been fascinated with, and I think it's something that I'll probably continue to explore in the future.
All right, so last question. I ask everyone this one. What is something that you can look at, listen to, watch, etc., that gets you just pumped up to go create something right when you see it? Something that just totally inspires you to get to work.
Oh, that's a good question. Let's say this: playing a really well crafted Nintendo game. So something like I feel like video games have constantly inspired me throughout. When I had an Atari 7800 growing up as a kid, to all the way now to playing modern games by myself and with my kids and with my family. I think there's these worlds and characters and experiences that these games create. That's always really inspiring and exciting to me, and it makes me want to do the same. I think I've always loved the idea of world building and character creating and all that interactive storytelling stuff. And so when I see a really well crafted place that just takes me to a completely different world, takes my mind off of everything, and it just creates a really interesting experience, that always inspires me. So most recently, I feel like that's been I'm still playing through the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild on the Switch. And that's been just an amazing world to just kind of fall into and explore and just get lost in. So I'd say, that's something like that always will inspire me and make me want to, create cool stuff.
Well, Dave, thanks again for coming on the show. You are a big inspiration for me. You helped me get into animation with all your videos, and you and everyone on the team over at Character Animator, you guys are all doing a great job.
Well, thank you very much. That's awesome to hear. That's the coolest thing I can possibly hear, right? Is if the work that I'm doing helps someone else create and make their own things and get the ideas that are kind of stuck in their head out there into the real world. So that's the highest compliment I could possibly get. So thank you very much.
Is there anything you want to plug? You want to tell the people how to find you?
Yeah, I mean, just OK Samurai is basically my handle on everything out there. So oksamurai.com has links to the latest videos I'm working on, and that's on YouTube, and I'm on Twitter and Instagram and all that stuff. So yeah, feel free to check it out and say hi.
Cool. Yeah, go watch Evan Flamethrower Robot Detective. It's a lot of fun. I'll leave a link to Dave's channel in the description. This has been another episode of the Talking Heads podcast. I'm Ben, and thanks for watching.